In the early 90s, tournament fighters were some of the highest grossing games imaginable. Street Fighter II, between all its versions, sold more than 12 million copies on the SNES. That's more than any other game except for Super Mario World, which often came with the system. Come on. Between the home release of Street Fighter II though, and the arcade release, the game made over $10 billion and is the third highest grossing game of all time. Then there were all the other hits like Mortal Kombat, Fatal Fury, and World Heroes, all making a ton of money at the arcades, but also selling like crazy on the home market as well. With all this money rolling in, it led companies all across the world searching for a way to cash in on this fighting game craze and enter in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If there was ever a franchise that loved to cash in, Ninja Turtles was it. They were cashing in every way they knew how. From action figures that no one would have wanted to buy, movie sequels people didn't want to see, musicals people didn't want to hear, cereal people wouldn't want to eat, cereal bowls for said cereal, sewer exploration belt for kids to train for jobs they wouldn't want to have, and of course, the turtle jello, which is just mind-boggling. Why would they make this orange instead of green? Needless to say, they knew how to milk a franchise, so naturally, when they saw all the potential for fighting games, they knew what to do.
Greed is dead. It's a new breed carved from the streets.
TMNT Tournament Fighter. But it wasn't good enough just to make one fighting game. They'd make 3 separate fighting games, one for each of the main systems at the time, the NES, the SNES, and the Genesis. And the games are vastly different too, each having different stories, mechanics, characters, graphics, moves, and honestly, just about everything except for being a fighting game itself. It's a wonder they didn't title them all different with different box arts to try to make as much money as possible, but regardless, today we're going to rank all 3 TMNT Tournament Fighter games to determine which one is the best. Before we dive into that, welcome to Ogle's channel. Thanks so much for watching today. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure and click the subscribe button down below for your latest in gaming news, reviews, content, and a lot of retro stuff, and here lately a lot of turtle stuff as well. But let's get back to ranking all 3 tournament fighters. In third place, we have the NES Tournament Fighter, and I hate to do this. I really do, because this is not a bad game at all, and honestly, it pushes the NES to its max ability. Being the last third-party game released on the system, it shows they knew how to use all the tricks possible to make an NES game look great. The story for this game is very simple. Shredder writes the Turtles a letter to come and fight him to just simply see who is the most powerful. I can't imagine a worse storyline for a game, and truth be told, I think no storyline at all would be better than this storyline. But then the game starts up and you have a few different options. Story mode, where you get to choose one of the 4 turtles to fight all 7 characters, ending with Shredder himself. A versus mode where you can battle it out amongst friends or a computer. And then a tournament where you can set up brackets and fight against friends or a computer in a formal tournament setting. Regardless of which one you choose, you'll be doing what the game is designed for. Fighting. The fighting itself is surprisingly good for an NES game too. You only have 2 attack buttons on the controller, but coupled with the directional pad, special splinter item drops to use, and special moves, the game feels surprisingly more full than just a 2-button game. I will say the special moves can be hard to execute, and I truly do hate that they took all the weapons away from the turtles as well. I know the NES can only handle so much. Without the weapons, the turtles all felt nearly the same. The other characters have a more unique feel to them, but the roster is fairly limited, with the only other characters being Shredder, Casey Jones, and Hothead. And I'll admit, I had never heard of Hothead before, but evidently he was an action figure and was in the comics as well. The tunes for this game were all pretty close to being on par with the other Turtle NES games, and that's a compliment, because the other NES games all had great soundtracks. Overall, this game is a fun fighter, but it suffers a bit due to the sameness of the Turtles, no weapons, difficult special moves, and graphics, even though they are great for the NES. I hate to put the game last, but of all the 3 games, this is the one I am least likely to come back and revisit. In second place is the Genesis version. Now I know a lot of people hate this version, however, while it does have some significant flaws, there are some really awesome things about this game. First off, the story that kicks it off I like a lot. Krang has sent out 4 evil lookalike turtles to capture Splinter, and we must travel across different planets in Dimension X, searching for him. I like that the story isn't just Shredder up to no good again though, and Krang is actually leading the charge, and we get to experience the different realms of Dimension X with some new creatures. When the game starts up, we have a few different options to choose from, with one player being a story mode, and then 2-player, tournament, and practice, all basically just being fights without a story. When you go into story mode, you can choose from anyone on the roster to play with instead of just the 4 turtles, such as Casey Jones, April, Ray, Sisyphus, and already just looking at the character selection, I love the art style for this game. It looks very gritty and reminiscent of the comic books, and even April gets to be a fighter in this game. Now one might say that the turtles look a little evil, but I like the darker art style here, and when the game starts up, this is continued to an even greater degree. Just look at some of these level backgrounds. This stuff is amazing. It looks like it could belong in a Contra game or something like that. They definitely went with a more mature direction for the art style in this game, and to me, that is the best thing this game has to offer. The fighting itself is a little limited though. The Genesis has 3 buttons. For some reason, they only chose to use 2 of them, saving the 3rd one for taunts and last minute special moves. The fighting in this game is still better than the NES one though, because all the turtles at least have their weapons. Special moves are easier to do, not super easy still, but easier than the NES. You have more distant attacks, and every character feels completely different. The 2 buttons are still restrictive, but they made it way smoother than the NES. However, the difficulty in this game is absolutely ridiculous. I set it on the easiest difficulty and only made it through about 3 battles. The computers are crazy good on this game, and in some battles, I barely even got a single hit in before dying. Even when playing on the practice mode, I get destroyed by the computers. The practice mode! The multiplayer for a friend is where you're going to get the most fun out of this game though, because you get to experience all the cool graphics, dark atmosphere of the levels, fun fighting gameplay, and not have to worry about being constantly destroyed with barely getting to play at all. One often overlooked factor in this game is the voice acting as well. They went more with an edgy feel on this, and the turtles sound like they've really had enough of Krang's crap, and I like the attitude. I've got you now. Except when Sisyphus talks. I actually like that too, just more of an ironic sort of way though. Overall, the Genesis version still isn't perfect, but they made several improvements over the NES version, and if they tone that difficulty down just a little bit, I think they would have an amazing fighting game on their hands. Well, that just leaves one left. SNES version. This game follows in the footsteps of the fighter greats like Street Fighter and truly tries to make a more timeless experience. While I like the other two, their limited control scheme really dated them before the game even started. This game not only fixed that, but it really doesn't make any missteps along the way in creating a great TMNT fighter. The game starts off with a fairly similar story to NES version, however it ups the ante when Splinter and April are kidnapped by Karai, and you must then journey throughout the entire world defeating all the fighters and finally rescuing your master and friend. When the game starts up, you do have 4 different options. The story mode, which continues the story that has already begun in the opening, and like the other games, tournament mode, versus battle, or more regular matches. They also add in a watch mode where you can just observe the computers fight and possibly learn some new techniques and moves. And I actually like that a lot. These were the days before Twitch and YouTube, and it gave you an opportunity to learn the game from the gaming programmers of what the game could actually do and some of the special moves that were in there. When you continue to story mode though, you have to choose from one of the 4 turtles, and you quickly realize just how much improved the fighting is for this game. They used all 4 main buttons on the SNES controller, and it is so much better than the 2-button system of the other games. This game feels like a regular fighting game. The special moves are the easiest to do in any of the 3 games, and you feel completely in control the whole time. The difficulty is also on par with what you selected to start. The Genesis was extremely hard regardless of the mode you chose, and this one honors the player's choice. As you journey through, you will fight more enemies in either of the other 2 games. Some we know from the TV show like Chrome Dome and Wingnut, while others are more from the comics like Armageddon and War. And like Sisyphus was for the Genesis, the female ninja Asuka was created specifically for this game. The character roster is significantly larger than the other two games in Versus mode as well, because not only can you play as any of these characters, you can also play as any of the boss characters once you defeat them within the story mode. The graphics for this game strive their best to be on par with the cartoon. From the cutscenes to some of the enemy animations, the game plays like it was pulled from the show. Many consider this game to be the sequel to Turtles in Time, and based upon the animation style, I can agree with that. The animation style, the background, and the size of the characters is also nice for the game. I personally like the Genesis more when it comes to this category. However, this is more in line with the mainstream fighter games of the time like Street Fighter, and they did a great job of bringing the areas and characters to life. The voice acting is pretty standard and less unique than the Genesis, but that's a small thing to trade off to get the far superior controlling and overall gameplay. This game also introduces a mutagen meter that you can build up as you fight, and if you max it out, you earn a devastating special move to do. This mixes the gameplay up a bit because sometimes when you're low on health, you'll still reach out for a risky move to finish filling up that meter just to get that special attack. Overall, this game is a great experience for single player and multiplayer, and because of the more traditional fighting mechanics and the button layout, this is a game that continues to age very well. So much so that there is still an online community that continues to patch the game, and tournaments and things like that still take place. So there we have it, the ranking of the 3 TMNT Tournament Fighters. Truth to be told, all 3 of these games have great aspects to them. Yes, they were done to most likely cash in on the craze at the time, but unlike the Turtle Cereal Bowl or the Turtle Jello, this is a cash in they actually attempted to create a great product out of. While I think the SNES version is the best by far as just being a great game, the Genesis brought out some of the most unique atmospheres of any Turtles game, and the NES showed just how much an NES can actually handle. If you can find any of these games out there, I highly recommend picking them up and heading down memory lane. If you enjoyed this video though, be sure and like and subscribe to the channel. As always, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.